I'll say right now, like the answer is not because I've seen this one. It's not to run some pseudo left primary in the Democratic Party, because that's not our arena. It's not our struggle. And it's not to try and have some new bourgeois or petty bourgeois third party, because frankly, that's not a solution either. The electoral arena is it's meant to serve their interests, their class. And if we're going to build anything, let's build it with our own banner and program. The banner of socialism and communism. You know what? These reactionaries right now, they're pretty open about what they want to do and what they stand for. And it's pretty horrible. And you know what? I think, yeah. And you know what? I want to have our program, what we stand for. I think the Communist Manifesto is correct when it says we disdain to conceal our views and aims. Let's present that communist alternative. Let's make a real red states as opposed to this fucking co-option. And that does mean working with oppressed people, working with working people in the streets and the workplaces, because that's where our real strength is. It's not going to be in the electoral arena. It's going to be, building real movements for liberation. And because what we have to do is the same as what we had to do 4 years ago or 8 years ago or 12 years ago. It is to build that movement, to build that kind of party. Because you know what? I think having a communist style party, it's not a guaranteed win, but without one, it's a guaranteed loss all the time.
I've read Marx. I've read Engels. I've read Das Kapital.
The world is run by Trotskyists.
Hardcore Trotskyists.
How great an anti-American Marxist.
They're controlled by Trotskyists, as you put it, and these are the most evil, sick human beings on the face of the planet.
You listen to the Left Opposition podcast with Chris, Doug, Joe, and myself.
Matt has a night off. Yeah,
we survived.
Right.
We survived another election.
Barely. But
yes. What is there to say? Everyone's kind of drew their line in the sand. I am personally, even though we saw this miles away, I called this months ago and nobody believed
you did
me.
I'll be honest, I got it wrong, but I'm gonna say
there's still weird emotions that I'm feeling.
A
lot of it is anger today. I have a lot of anger towards the Democratic elite, the establishment, the smug, insufferable coconut-pilled liberals on Twitter. I don't know. I'm not used to feeling like this. I'm not a hateful person, but I cannot stand these people anymore. I hope they're all miserable. I hope Kamala and Hillary never have a moment of peace and quiet and happiness for the rest of their lives. These people deserve to be pelted with rocks and bottles everywhere they go, to be treated like the King of Spain.
We want the King of Spain treatment. Amen.
For those who don't know, the King of Spain visited flood victims this week.
And he was Valencia. Not historically,
I didn't even know they had a king.
He was pelted with mud when he showed up. There was a worker. Awesome. There was a worker yelling at him, holding a shovel, pointing at the shovel, and being like, "This is your job. This is what you're supposed to be doing." Not coming down here for a fucking photo op.
Right. In America, they don't even do that anymore. They're just not there.
They just fly over in an airplane and look down. That's all they do.
Shit's crazy, bro.
Here's $700.
So long.
Rebuild you.
Yeah, here's $700. By the way, we cut FEMA by $8 billion, and mysteriously in the same week we're sending $8 billion in aid to Israel to carry out a genocide.
That's just a coincidence, Aaron. Come on.
Side note about the Spanish monarchy, that was restored, after Franco's death. And it was like the monarch was essentially groomed by Franco. So it's literally like a fascist holdover. And it's like, come on, guys, have a freaking third republic already. Obviously some kind of socialist republic, and freaking guillotine these guys.
Yeah.
But I'm glad they got the mud treatment. I mean, to tell you the truth, in the last month before the election, whenever I would open a new browser to look up something, it always has the news items on it. And so much of it was polls and projections, and I just would have to please, I don't want to see this. At least give me the top 10 Star Wars or Lord of the Rings villains. I like that shit.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't stand it. And I'll tell you the truth, like I was leaning to a Trump victory, but I actually expected it to like lead to it was gonna like
Close,
she would
right?
either she would win the popular vote, he would win the electoral college, and there'd be some kind of January 6th shit again.
Right.
And
Yeah,
that
I
was
kinda
kind of
thought
like
that.
my prediction. I mean, I wasn't going to say that too much out loud because I don't like to predict the future too much. But I don't think I quite expected it would be this kind of blowout. And even if all those California votes come in and it narrows the gap, it's still a blowout for, on her
Yeah.
basically. It looks like Trump is actually going to get a little more votes than he did 4 years ago, not by much.
I thought it was going to be 3 million less as of now, but
I mean, they're still
But-
counting votes, so it's like
yeah.
obviously he's going to get some more, but again, he's going to get pretty close to what he got 4 years ago. And obviously she did worse than Hillary Clinton, and that's like saying something.
I mean,
That's crazy.
15 to 20 million less than Biden last time around. Like
I
That's-
actually just
that's-
want to
And
quickly
that was a
bring up,
pandemic. That was during a pandemic
yep.
Yeah.
where people did not want to go and vote. And that's when they had the whole issues with mail-in.
Well, I want to
ballots
point
and
out
stuff.
180 million ballots were delivered by your letter carriers during the pandemic. So thank
Hey.
you, our boys in light blue. Light blue. I
No.
said light blue.
So
Thank you.
4
Salute to the
years
real
ago,
heroes.
Trump got 74 million, and right now he's at 73 million, according to what's
that
on
gap
AP.
has changed. Wow. Okay.
So again, they're still counting votes, and they still haven't called 2 states, by the way. And she's got 68 million. But so let's say she gets another 5 million. She's still, and that's I'm just throwing a random number. That's still pretty bad, for her. So basically, like a lot of like these traditional Democratic heartland states just went to Trump, like Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania.
The vote was depressed. It was it was like it was turned down.
Right.
It's remarkable. That's how little faith American voters had in either of these candidates.
Yeah.
And it was still a blowout.
And the other thing is, if you look at like the liberal whining assholes, they're blaming everyone. They want people to be deported. But the thing that really gets me is like when they're going after like third parties, the Green Party. And at one point on election night that they were saying like, oh God, Jill Stein cost Kamala Harris Virginia. And it was like, at one point they were still counting the votes, and she ended up actually winning Virginia. And that those numbers from Jill Stein, etc., wouldn't have changed it.
Yeah.
Right.
And the other thing is they think they're entitled to those Jill Stein votes.
Of course.
But then again, if you actually look at, there was a libertarian candidate who got roughly the same amount. It's like a little less, I think. And then there was Robert F. Kennedy, who, funnily enough, has endorsed Trump and tried to drop out. He still got 600,000 votes.
I think he got more than
No,
Jill
I think
Stein.
actually, I still have the window up.
Okay.
Jill Stein she got 655,000. He got like 20,000 less.
Okay. Well,
And
that's good.
the libertarian got about 584,000.
I'm
So again,
glad
it's
when
like
that party
assuming
goes
all
away.
those, like they assume like that's going to go to the Democrats. I mean, the Green Party's so fucked up. It's like it's bringing from all over. So who knows? The same with like the RFK, because again, he comes out of a Democratic family, so you never know.
Well, that's the thing that drives me so crazy. They just say it so matter-of-factly. It's like she cost her this state. Like, how do you must just be assuming all of those votes would go to her.
They're not
otherwise.
entitled to those votes. And assuming, again, using their stupid electoralist logic, assuming all those votes from all the third-party candidates, from Jill Stein, the Libertarian, PSL, had somehow gone to Kamala Harris, it wouldn't change the outcome.
No.
She'd still be millions behind, really anywhere. And I remember on a Facebook page, like someone I said that, and someone put up a list, and it's like, well, look at this. I'm like, yeah, I did the math. It still doesn't add up to you, idiot.
Yeah.
Again, it's a big if with that. It's also like, in other countries, there's ranked choice and everything, but it's also like some people just say like, you know what? I'm for Jill Stein. Nothing's going to stop me. I'm not a Democrat or Republican. I'm a Green. I'm a Jill Steiner.
Yeah.
They assume that they're entitled to these votes. And it's like, they're basically, I've said this before. They're like, it's Bob Avakian. They're blaming the masses. It's like, we have to shit on the people and everything. Now, Bob Avakian, so I don't know if you realize this. He doesn't actually have a mass base of support.
That's what. Oh, really?
And,
really, Doug?
And so it's probably not a good approach to blame people It's like maybe there's something wrong with your ideas and your approach. And the
Well,
fact
if you
is,
read his new synthesis, maybe you'd know that he
Mhm.
does.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
God. Yeah.
Yeah,
Know the
but that's
basics.
what I've always said about it is like it's basically the argument is basically if she got more votes, she would have won. It's like,
Sure.
yeah.
Well, I mean, not really. I mean, that's not
I
how it
mean, the
works in
other thing is
America.
like at some level, I think Bob Avakian, at least when he made that statement, probably wants some version of a better world and everything.
Right.
Probably does. So,
At one
okay.
point, the Revolutionary Communist Party was good.
Yeah,
At
yeah.
one
So it's
point.
like you
Yeah.
got that
Yeah.
part of it. But if you look at Kamala Harris, she's in a bourgeois party and she doesn't even put up the facade at this point of trying to pretend to be a party of the people, which they've done before. Like if you look at even LBJ when he's bombing freaking Vietnam, they were talking about like, oh, like this legislation they wanted to pass. You know, Jimmy Carter in 76, he had like the Democratic Agenda program. Granted, it didn't mean anything. But they still had it. And, you know, Obama had his vacuous rhetoric about hope and change, but he talked about things. You know, it's like we're gonna give everyone an equal chance. We're gonna end the wars and
Hope
everything.
and change. It was an inspiring
it was vacuous
slogan.
bullshit. But
Obama at least mentioned healthcare.
yeah,
Right.
It's like in this sense, like they're mentioning like these popular things. Again, it's a facade. They don't put it into practice. But she really wasn't doing anything. She just be like, I'm not Trump.
Right.
Yeah,
And
that was the entire
I
thing.
don't distance myself from Joe Biden, even if he's done shit and is, you know, supporting Nazis in Ukraine and genocide in Gaza.
Right.
You know, so she doesn't do anything. And it's like, you know, they're not saying like, they're not even making outlandish promises like, you know, everyone gets a free flying car or something. It was just nothing.
Right.
It's just talking about, oh, you know, look, Beyonce endorsed this. It's like, all right, who cares? Dick Cheney endorsed this. Like, really? Who the fuck is you?
Yeah. Did you see that thing?
That should have been a red
that's,
flag.
Some like MSNBC anchor
the bad
had
red
said
flag.
like they did everything right. Like she was endorsed by Beyonce and Taylor Swift and
Right.
SZA, I don't know, like
The Avengers
Mark
actors.
Ruffalo
It's like-
showed up.
it was like
you know?
that's doing everything right to you.
Yeah,
like
yeah. No,
that-
she ran a perfect campaign.
Yeah.
And
Right.
she held hands with Liz Cheney, and they got Tim Walz out of the
Quick as he could because he called
out
people
of the
weird.
limelight because he was resonating with voters. And one of these weird rules about elections is your VP cannot outshine your nominee.
Oh shit.
And it's like, but your
Yeah.
nominee stands for nothing.
Right. I mean,
They ran on
take-
nothing.
No, I mean, take for example, like single payer health care. There was a poll a few years ago in the Democratic, was it 74% of the I think maybe 82%, 74, 82% support single payer health care. You think you would run on that to get even if you don't plan on doing it, you would bring it up to get your base to come out. You know,
Right.
okay, look, we're going to do single payer health care. We're going to give everybody health care because we know you are struggling. Healthcare costs, like my shitty union leadership. I love my union, but leadership is going to be changing soon. But like, we understand that's a big cost. We're going to take that off. We're going to lower your healthcare. More money in your pocket. You're not to worry. You can go anywhere. You can get the best healthcare. We're going to give that to you. She didn't even pretend to. I mean, Obama at least talked about the public option or some shit. But like, healthcare costs, things that actually like that's what people need. People who need medication, diabetes, like diabetic medication, like they need this stuff. Provide them, and they wouldn't. I never once heard them bring up healthcare.
Right.
Not once, and that was their strongest suit.
Yeah, it used to be that you could even get some liberals to agree that like, oh yeah, propose like a fairly left-leaning thing like Medicare for all in the election, and then you can maybe shave it down to a public option.
Right,
Yeah.
the Obama shit. Right. Yeah.
And that's the example they would use is like, look at the ACA. That's what he did. And it's like, okay, but you can't even like liberals won't even entertain that anymore. They're like, no,
shit.
you can't
Right.
do things. What are you, crazy?
I'll tell you, when I was younger, my dad was a local Democratic Party organizer, and I went to a few meetings just to kind of see what it was about. And you could say all kinds of stuff. Like he would actually be very vocal, like he wanted single payer healthcare. You know, he was the local organizer for the town, the city we were in. And he would say this, and, you know, you could say like, stop the wars, or, you know, you want the environmental stuff, but it's like, it never percolated up. It never mattered. And they would always support like these, you know, bourgeois candidates and everything. So it's like, you could talk about it all you want, and, you know, depending on where you are, but it's like, it never mattered. It's like, if you've ever seen Game of Thrones, there's the scene where Ned Stark is saying like, you know, Joffrey's illegitimate, and here's the king's words. And what does Cersei do when she gets that? She tears it up. It's a piece of paper. So it's like you can like say all this and pass resolutions at your local Democrat club, assuming they actually have a spine, which most 99% of them don't. Yeah. And if assuming it actually appears anywhere, it's a piece of paper and they tear it up.
Right. Yeah. It's hard to think that the Democratic Party isn't democratic. I mean, also another thing that factored into this whole election was that Joe Biden never got to have there was no primary.
Yeah.
There was people who they didn't even bother doing, like, is it Florida and North Carolina canceled their Democratic state primaries.
Yeah.
They fucked this up so hard, so bad. And who are they blaming? Like us, the Green Party, Muslims, black men. And it's like, you kept this guy, his brain was leaking out of his ear for the last year, and you tried to like hide it from us.
Yeah, they're blaming the left reflexively. They're being like, it's because we've been too progressive or whatever. And it's like, bro, there was no Bernie Sanders in this election, and there was no like Kamala moving left to meet Bernie Sanders. Like there was none of that. So I don't know. Like you're just like
there's no defund the police. Remember they said defund the police. Oh, that slogan hurt us in 20s. During that. I mean, it was the red trickle, but they're like, oh, that's what did us in, which the Democrats didn't defund the fucking police, but like they always had to blame something.
There was no progressive input in this campaign whatsoever.
None.
The liberals running this party were given absolute free reign to campaign however they wanted.
And they brought in Liz Cheney and they talked about Dick
Cheney,
a war criminal, and Hillary Clinton. Like Dick Cheney should be in jail for what he did in the Iraq war. And they were like, well, he endorses us. And then you see the fucking the views on, and you have Whoopi Goldberg, millionaire liberal, going, Liz Cheney, why don't you become why don't you become attorney general? It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah, it's like, you're a lawyer. You could do it. Like, what? They're all lawyers. What are you talking about?
No.
Every single one of them went to Harvard Law.
So embarrassing.
In terms of progressive input, it's like it's always a mask. First of all, even when FDR, who this icon of like the Democrats, the only reason he passed those reforms was to avert social upheaval from below, and it was more placation. It wasn't because he was some kind of great benefactor humanitarian. He didn't want frickin' workers to take over. And when in like the 60s when LBJ passed it, it was because there was mass movements for civil rights and other things, and he wanted to placate these people and to keep them in line to like co-opt movements, which is what the Democrats do. And the thing is, like, they were not savvy enough to do that in terms of their marketing. And say what you want about Donald Trump, who he is a media personality. He knows how to market himself, to advertise himself and his brand. He's very good at it. His brand sucks. His product is defective. It doesn't matter. He's able to put up smoke and mirrors. It's literally a used car salesman type stuff. And again, he has decades of practice with this. And he's had like very talented evil geniuses with his like media PR teams who can do this. It's like, and it's just like, it's like it's like his brand is like this right-wing authoritarian populism, Christian nationalism, and like some kind of like pseudo-economic justice for people. And he markets that and is really good at it. And, like Steve Bannon, when he was there in 2016, he knew how to tap into like that Reddit like cesspool to like really get them riled up and to really like tap the Democratic buttons. The Democrats don't have any talent at that. They think that there is like some like Dick Cheney voter who just wants like things to go back to normal. And everything, and that's who they're appealing to. And at the same time, they're not willing to even throw a rhetorical bone to their supposed base, which is not their real base, their supposed base, but the people they still want to come out to the polls for them. They can't do that. It's like I'm sorry, Whoopi Goldberg does not have the same media savvy as Donald Trump does. Nor does Rachel Maddow, nor do any of these people. They come off, and to a certain extent, I think it's true, as these out of touch moronic liberals.
Yep. So, all right, Aaron. So you got the ballot questions, however, right? Now some of these went pretty well. Florida is hard to believe Florida is very undemocratic on how they do ballot questions, but there were some gains.
If nothing else, like full on solidarity to anyone that left the top ballot blank. There were definitely down ballot measures worth showing up for. Abortion rights ballot measures resulted in abortion measures passing in Arizona, Colorado, Maryland, Missouri, Montana, Nevada, and New York.
Big of a Missouri.
Abortion outperformed Kamala in like 14 states.
Yeah.
Trump voters showed up and supported abortion.
Right.
That's how badly they fucked this up.
I know. Like, that was supposed to be a big thing that's supposed to aid them. Like, okay, if people are showing up who are pro-choice, they're going to vote for the Democrat.
Yeah.
They didn't even do that.
They could have tried talking about it a few times, maybe.
Apparently, man, I can't get over how low information American voters are.
Yeah.
There were people who didn't.
We are number one.
There are people who didn't know who Kamala Harris was. They'd never heard of her.
Jesus.
Where do these people
like
live?
On election day?
Yeah.
Do they like have like a ham radio
it was
for
during,
like getting information?
It was
radio?
it was anecdotes making the rounds during like the door knocking part of the campaign, and they're like, can we count on your support for Kamala Harris? I'm like, who? Like, who the fuck is that?
Oh boy.
One incredibly dumbass thing is, of course, Florida. Abortion, they voted 57% yes to pass the amendment there. Florida requires a 60% threshold for ballot measures to pass, so it did not pass.
It's almost like our whole system is set up to subvert democracy.
Yeah, you think? So America overwhelmingly is in favor of abortion, access to abortion in some manner. And the fact that it was more popular than Kamala Harris really, really says something.
Yeah. Also from the chat, Artorius Rosa. Oh, I just want to bring up this thing too. He said, in desperate times, people are going to look towards charismatic strongmen like Trump, not the weak corporate mandates that are Biden and Harris. That's, I think, a good point, because I think now there's some people who surprise me, and they're like, what Trump really represents, and for a lot of people, is this guy is saying fuck the system and I'm losing, and the Democrats are like, no, everything's good. Look at the economy. Look at Wall Street. I always say Democrats, the Wall Street's posting record numbers. GDP growth is doing well. And it's like,
who gives a shit?
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, Wall Street is not the fucking economy. And it's just like, it seems like the affluent upper middle class people, like if you go drive around, like anecdotally, me driving around like rich neighborhoods in Massachusetts, I'm telling you, it was 2 to 1, like mostly Harris signs everywhere. Like that's what they are. And all the broke ass areas, and also a lot of petty bourgeois people have a Trump sign. But you go to rich areas, you're seeing a lot of Democratic money now. It's like things, and like I said, we have a couple articles we'll be talking about that too.
So like they'll say the stock market's doing great, the economy is great, inflation is down, and your first question should always be, for who? Right. Because none of these people pay rent. Right. Rent is through the goddamn roof.
It's ridiculous, is it? Yeah. Mortgage rates are high. You're trying to buy a house?
Yeah.
The mortgage rates interest rates are like, I think 6.7% if you want to get a house. They can say, well, Trump was giving it at 3.25, I think was the lowest.
Food, groceries, like
healthcare costs,
auto insurance, healthcare, everything, every single thing has gone up across the board.
Except your wages.
Except fucking wages. Yeah. No substantial increase to wages.
That's what I love about jobs, man. I keep getting older and they stay the same wage.
That's funny.
I like that. Yeah.
That's a good way to take a very creepy quote and make it good.
Yeah, I know. Wow, Joe, well done.
Because I know where that comes.
Clip. All right, Aaron, clip. We might have an intro. Joe might have done something.
Yeah.
No, it's up to you. But
like they always say jobs are up, and it's like, it's because people are taking a second and third job just to stay afloat. Nowhere does minimum wage working full time cover a 1-bedroom apartment anywhere in the US.
Dude, like 20 plus an hour doesn't fucking cover it.
Yeah.
No, you have to work like 95 hours a week on minimum wage
and if you ever apply for jobs, it's like it's really hell.
Oh my god.
Oh, Doug, you're doing great.
It's like you can apply, their systems suck. They don't call you back, and the amount of people who are trying to scam you and everything. That's like frustrating and demoralizing. So like when you hear this on the news about how great the economy is, and you contrast it to that experience, it sucks. That doesn't mean you're going to go out and vote for Donald Trump or Harris for that matter, but it's really like, come on, we don't have anything.
Right.
This isn't like even like bourgeois Scandinavia, where at least if you're unemployed, like there's an actual safety net.
Right.
Yeah.
Like you have to worry about your medicine, shit
You know,
like
it's like
that.
if you're unemployed in like France or Scandinavia, you don't actually have to worry about that.
Right.
You're gonna
Yeah.
be, you're more or less gonna have that. Here it's like this is like the only advanced, country where it's like medical debt is a thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
An ambulance ride is
And South Korea.
$3,000, Oh,
Yes,
South
and
Korea.
occupied Korea.
fake Korea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Say what you want.
Not
I'm
North
sorry
Korea?
that
I thought that
North
was the bad
Korea
one.
is that's not occupied.
Yep. All right. Do we want to go over one of Chris's articles? Because I got some stuff I'd like to say about it. Because mostly, there's a quote, the Spinoza quote. Doug, if I've been getting it wrong all day, thank you for not correcting me. But am I getting it basically right?
You're getting it basically. It's not our duty is not to weep and despair or cry. It's to understand. Something to that effect. I know I'm paraphrasing it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know.
I think it's important to understand that. Like, I was torn. Part of my anger today was being torn between gloating for being right, but also like, fuck. I wish not that I wanted hair. Like, I don't know. It's so weird. I can't
I know
explain
what you
it.
mean.
I did not
By the
want
way, the
Harris
quote
to
is,
win.
I've striven not to laugh at human actions, not to weep at them, nor to hate them, but to understand them.
And
Thank you, Doug. All right.
I have coworkers at work who were up all night, basically counseling their trans friends in the States.
Right.
I see suicide hotlines being posted again.
Yeah, I have trans
2016 all over
coworkers
again.
who took like mental health days yesterday.
People are talking about hoarding, like trying to get overprescribed for HRT just so they can so they have a stockpile of it, right? And so the title of tonight's episode is "What is to be done now?" And we have to understand how we got here, but then also understand what if any are the next steps going forward. Yeah, I'm kind of at a loss at the moment. I will say, the one thing that does give me hope, we are recording this on November 7th, which is, I believe, the 107th anniversary of the October Revolution.
You're correct. And it's also
on the Gregorian
Trotsky's
calendar
birthday.
for all of you. Yep.
Yeah, the old man's birthday.
Best birthday present he ever got, I would hope.
But my point is, people with a lot less than the American working class, and I know life sucks, but people with a lot less stood up to even greater empires with a lot less odds, and they fought back, and and they won.
Yeah, that's what I try to remember, man. It's like it's hard because I mean it's really not good, and it's going to be worse for a lot of people than it is for me. But how do I say, I don't know. I feel like people walk around with this unspoken rule that well, whatever happens, nothing can ever get worse even a little bit for Americans. For middle income Americans, that's just not allowed to happen. And I'm sort of I don't want bad things to happen to anyone, but also
Well, I'm not an accelerationist.
No, we're not.
Right,
but there are people
no.
who think if we just make things worse, that'll cause people. No, as communists, that's antithetical to what we want to do.
There's morons like Bad Empanada who is America deserves. I hope Trump wins because Americans deserve to suffer. And
that's
Empire,
hating the ordinary people.
Yeah, exactly. Again, blaming the people. It's exactly what the Democrats did. I wanted to mention earlier. It's West Wing brain from the TV show The West Wing. Is that the Democrat Party cannot fail. It can only be failed.
Right.
You didn't vote hard enough.
I just I hope I can finish I hope I can make this point well enough. I put it as the example of the Civil War, because was the Civil War pleasant? Was the turnover of the Whig Party collapsing and the Republican Party becoming a major part? Was this a non-tumultuous thing? Did people go oh no, don't do it because stability?
Right.
No, right. But then fucking slavery was ended. So that's sort of how I feel is I'm not trying to be a tough guy and say that I'm going to do well when things degenerate. I'm not. I don't know. Yeah, it's just sort of history still needs to happen. And it's if our only guiding principle is no, nothing can ever get worse in my situation, because that would just be unthinkable. Then like I don't know. I hope it's making sense. That's just how I feel.
Yeah.
I mean,
No.
I feel like that, there is like such a thing as privilege, but I always qualify that it's relative privilege. Yeah,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
don't have it as bad here as say Palestine, for instance, or
Right.
wherever, somewhere else. That doesn't mean the problems aren't real. And the relative privilege is relative. I as a man, I'm not like gonna walk like afraid of walking down the street at night and getting raped.
Yeah.
Right.
Or
But
losing
that doesn't
abortion
mean like
rights
I'm not
or
exploited or
Right.
something.
Right.
Those
I'm a
problems
white
are
guy.
real.
A cop's not going to pull me over and beat the shit out of me because I'm in the wrong neighborhood at the wrong time.
Yeah,
Right.
but you
Right.
still have problems and they're still
Right.
real.
Yeah.
That
Right.
doesn't, it's not like this category of original sin, which, a lot of third world is kind of like, it's very moralistic and everything. And like this idea, like privilege, like the bad empanada types, I know who he is, yeah, and everything. It's like they think that privilege, if whatever you have is like, it's basically the mark of Cain. You can never escape it if you're white, if you're whatever.
Yeah.
And that's not materialistic. It's not dialectical. And the fact is, it's not our destiny. And people can change through struggle and everything. So it's like when you see the Democrats like just shitting on the people who did not support them, etc., saying I hope you get deported and stuff, like you're irredeemable. That's not our approach. Now, granted, there are certainly like hardcore reactionaries that we don't like, that we want to defeat. We're not the ACP and we want to join with them and everything.
Yeah.
But I think there's still potential for change. People are, if whatever privilege you have is not like where you're destined to, stay, you can change, you can go a different direction. Like in the 60s, a lot of the protests against the Vietnam War came from elite college students, and they had privileges. Is that a bad thing that they joined the struggle? I don't think it was.
I mean, Che Guevara came from a very
Che
well-to-do
Guevara,
upper middle class thing.
Engels.
He was a trained
Yeah.
doctor. He
Yeah.
could have had a very
Yeah.
easy life in Argentina, dedicated
Even
his life to the
Castro.
revolution. Yeah. He was a lawyer. He could have just done, been a lawyer and been easy, but hey, so one thing one article I just kind of summed up a bit, but this is from the Socialist Equality Party, or you might see him as the WSWS.org. Before I start the article, now they use a term to describe Trump, and off air, we were just discussing this, but they feel that Trump is a fascist. I mean, everyone can chime in here, but I would say Trump is not a fascist. Arch reactionary, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, Saudi Arabia isn't fascist, but like they have no democracy. There's no rights. There's no union collective bargaining. But no one thinks Saudi Arabia is authoritarian. But
Yeah,
I don't think. Yeah,
he's like Modi in India, or I forget the name of the Hungarian leader, Orban.
Victor Orban. Yeah,
Orban and whoever, Bolsonaro. Certainly authoritarian, certainly reactionary, but I think we should use the terms fascist sparingly,
right,
and everything. I think he's kind of like a semi-Bonapartist in certain ways. He definitely has this aura of charisma. He wants to strengthen the executive, but that's not necessarily fascist. And that's not to say that there aren't fascists who support him, but it is different. And although I have a lot of problems with the SCP.
Same.
But some of their coverage, and it depends on the issue, can be very good.
Right. Ukraine, I think Doug and I.
I think they're very
we like
good
the
on
Ukraine
a lot of
coverage.
the Ukraine issues.
Yep.
And
Yep.
actually, a lot of their stuff against DSA is very good. They have this weird obsession with like some of the like identity politics, in the sense like they really hate it, and they almost seem like they're willing to ally with some very unsavory people in positions to go after it.
Same. Right.
But
Yep.
there is
yeah.
the thing is, like, we also read the New York Times, and they suck in a lot of worse ways.
Right.
So-
Like they have liberal identity politics I don't like, but like, the Marxist view of double class oppression, that black working class people, women working class people, trans people, immigrants, they there's different levels of oppression. It's all about how we view things.
Yeah, and those are the elements of intersectionality that we do agree with.
Right.
Yes. I think
Yes.
there is a lot of overlap there. I think where we differ is the importance of class struggle,
Right.
because with when you get the id poll types, if they acknowledge class at all, they see class as just another identity through which people experience oppression, and
Right.
not
We need more women CEOs. Like, no, We don't need more women. We need no CEOs, but women in leadership of trade unions. Sure. Yeah. We should be more representative like that. But yeah, let's get some, right. That's what I'm saying. Jesus. All right. So I just wanted to touch on that. So this is called On the Election of Donald Trump. And I'll just read a little bit from it here. Trump owes his political triumph to the bankruptcy of the Democratic Party, whose fixation with the identity politics of the affluent middle class, arrogant indifference to the devastating impact of inflation on workers' living standards, and unrelenting support for war in Ukraine and genocide in Gaza prepared the groundwork for this election debacle. He was able to exploit the absence within the political establishment of any articulation of the interests of the vast majority of the population. The Harris campaign was opposed to making any social appeal to the working class. They pitched their campaign to the most affluent voters, promoted hated warmongers like Liz Cheney, and promising to replace Republicans in the cabinet.
Yeah.
Harris, Barack Obama, and other Democratic surrogates traveled to the country, haranguing voters that a failure to turn out for Harris would be proof of misogyny or racism. They combined incessant appeals to racial and gender identity with full-throated endorsement of war abroad. The Democrats pledged further support for Israel's genocidal assault on Gaza and called for an escalation of the U.S.-NATO war against Russia and Ukraine. Those who have promised this form of right-wing politics, promoted by the Democratic Party, now resort to the most bankrupt responses up to the election, blaming the population. In fact, the past year has seen an explosive growth of political and social opposition, from the mass protests against the genocide in Gaza to a steady growth of strike action by workers. And I'm not going to read the last part because I'm going to leave that out because I want to like you. In conclusion, these struggles must be politically directed and they must be guided by an understanding that the fascism can only be stopped by the development of an independent movement of the working class against the source of political reaction oligarchy, the capitalist system. There must be a new birth of genuinely socialist politics based on the working class and animated by an internal strategy. Now, the one I think I like the most, what I just read off was, if you did not, I got vote shaming. If you do not vote for Kamala Harris, you're a racist or you're a misogynist.
Yep.
That kind of shit drives people nuts.
There's been a lot of that this week. I listened to Majority Report. Emma Vigland was crying on air that this country hates women, and I'm like, it's disheartening. It's a shitty situation, but to just immediately conclude that this country hates women, I think it lacks a real material analysis of what happened.
Yeah, I mean, I could understand that more if she was saying so many Americans gleefully voted for Trump, who's going to attack reproductive rights, and
that was proven wrong because we just showed abortion was more popular.
True.
Trump supporters showed up and voted in favor of abortion.
I also think a majority of white women did vote for Trump.
54%, the same as Hillary Clinton.
It's incredible.
It's the same number. Nothing changed.
Yeah, and it's incredible some of the vitriol then coming from liberals against Arabs and black men, when it's yo, guys, who actually fucking elected Trump?
It's also worth noting that Trump, obviously, he is a racist, and all the racists are supporting him, along with the racists supporting Harris, for that matter. But his base is not just white guys or even white women.
Yeah. There is. Do you think there's an element of I've heard this. I heard the term for the first time this week is pulling the ladder away. There are second generations of Latino voters pulling the ladder away, essentially not wanting any new immigrants because they have.
I think there's an element of that. There is
they've managed to.
There are people who identify with this seemingly self-made man and that kind of populist masculine message. Yeah, so it's there is a part of it is almost they see Trump as representing a return to prosperity, or them a return to the American dream. He's going to make a deal,
and he's going to fix my problems.
Yeah, it's that kind of stuff. It's it's a pseudo almost economic reason, along with image and stuff. Because what did the Democrats offer? Not much.
They ran on mass deportation.
Yeah,
that's what the Democrats ran, and building Trump's wall. That's what they ran on.
And Liz Cheney being attorney general. That's what people really were hoping for.
I mean,
Arabs, that's an obvious one. It turned out that tear gassing students Arab students and their allies, and then
Really?
bombing
That
their
didn't help?
bombing their families
Oh, are you
overseas at the
sure?
same time while
Well, I think this
asserting
is a bullying
Israel's right to
narrative.
defend itself,
Huh.
working tirelessly for a ceasefire when the press secretary said over and over again we were never interested in a serious ceasefire.
Aaron, I'm going to stop you right
For
there.
some reason,
Joe Biden was
it's
very
crazy.
very upset multiple times. I read article after article of how pissed off Joe Biden was that Netanyahu was doing a genocide. Did any of you wokes think of that?
Yeah, he was so mad he kept sending him missiles every 12
That's
hours.
right. He was very upset while sending them 2,000-pound bombs
Hey,
while they were bombing hospitals.
He held back like 2 bombs that one time for like 5 minutes.
And then you have some deranged people like saying, Harris and the Democrats don't support Israel. And it's like, what planet did these people live on that they think like the Democrats don't like? They've, other than like Joe said, 2 bombs didn't make it there, but like the other 9
eventually
million.
they did. It was
They
so
were
delayed.
Right?
They were very clear. Like if you watch like the DNC or anything, it was very clear they didn't give a shit.
Yeah.
And she's also saying,
Trump,
"I want the most lethal military in American history."
Yes, Trump ran on. If she's elected, Israel won't exist in 2 years, and I'm like, well, if you put it that way,
I mean, I would have voted. I might have just voted for her. If that was
like
the case.
they're making like it's not like say between like communists and actual fascists where it's like very clear what the alternatives are. There's no once like these people want to destroy like religion and they want to get rid of our country, and it's like the communists are like, yeah, of course we do. It's like there's
amazing.
no mediation. It's very clear where the sides are. The extremes are revealed. In this case, it's like the Republicans are throwing, dust in the air, and the Democrats are trying to like outflank them to the right, pretty much. There is no, clear like lines of battle, clear extremes. They're just meshing together, more or less. Right. It's really just optics, because, I understand people are very upset, and I don't, the mental health days. And this actually happened in 2016 when he got elected then. I remember that as well.
Yeah.
But the fact is, just in 2016 and 2024, it's based on a false perception that the Democrats are on our side. Yep. They're not. Yeah. They've done nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Yeah. They're not failing.
More people were deported under Obama and Biden than under Trump. That doesn't mean Trump is good.
Right.
He represents a lot of shitty stuff. But I think part of political maturity, political radicalization means, I repeat this incessantly on my Facebook and Twitter, is Democrat defeats are not our defeats. Just like Democrat victories are not our victories. Bingo. That also applies to the Republicans. But the fact is, most leftists don't, have illusions in them. And it's important to do that, because if you are chasing them, like the Democrats are hoping they're going to protect you, it's really giving a false sense of security. Again, it's I'm not blaming anyone for being afraid, but don't look to the Democrats to rescue you, because they won't. They've done nothing, absolutely nothing to prove that.
Yeah,
and that is not like the American. We're not like the patsies who are like, oh, yay, the Democrats lost that. I mean, it's like, congrats. Like now the Republicans won. Do you think that's a victory?
It's not a victory, and it's not a defeat. It's like, why didn't? It's like on the one hand, it's like, okay, the genocidal party got punished, and the other genocidal party got in. Exactly. It's like it's like in The Simpsons, you're getting rid of the stone of shame and replacing with the stone of triumph, and that's really not that great an improvement if you've ever seen that episode. And because as long as you have those illusions in them, or you think like, if we just vote harder, if we just have a better primary in the Democrats, or we vote better ones, no, I'm sorry, it won't help you. And if you look at the so-called progressive Democrats, it's the same with them. AOC's record is also one of supporting for Israel, Ukraine, and also she supported ICE, tax cuts for wealthy people, and she supported coups in Venezuela. Some of this while Trump was in office, so it really wasn't a deal breaker for her. And Bernie Sanders, he released some stupid statement about how the Democrats, abandoned the working class. Weren't you the one who just endorsed Harris and Biden and Clinton. And also your own record is one of support for these wars,
Yes.
of support
Yeah.
for Israel.
Yeah, no, I don't think anyone's buying what Bernie's got to say anymore. I think like you're done, man. Like
Yeah.
We should talk about that too.
we're so done with you
that statement
because
he put out yesterday.
the statement where he's like, yeah, the Democrats have abandoned the working class. Like, well,
Where
yeah,
was that in 2016, Bucko?
where the fuck
Yeah.
were
Yeah.
you? Yeah, where was
Well, in
this?
2016, that's what he was saying. That was great.
And then he just caved,
Yeah.
that was the thing.
That's exactly what this article gets into, and I want to cover this part here from the Revolutionary Communists of America.
Oh yeah. That's good. I got some stuff on it too. So definitely, Aaron, go for it.
For a long time, the Democrats were able to pose as the political representatives of the working class, but decades of bitter experience has convinced millions of workers that this is a lie. They are looking for a radical alternative. This might have been provided by Sanders if he had decided to break the Democrats and stand as an independent, but he capitulated to the establishment of the Democratic Party, and that disillusioned his base. This left the road open for a right-wing demagogue like Trump, who seized the opportunity with both hands. This isn't generally known, and I actually just read this for the first time. I didn't know this. In 2015,
I remember kind of hearing it.
Trump privately told Yale Business School professor Jeffrey Sonnenfeld that he purposefully copied the anti-corporate messaging that Bernie Sanders' campaign had shown was effective. In the absence of a viable left-wing candidate, millions of people who felt alienated and politically dispossessed took advantage of the opportunity to deliver a well-aimed kick against the establishment. The truth is, the working class of America feels betrayed by the Democrats and totally alienated from the existing political parties. For them, Trump appeared to offer an alternative, and they rallied to his support. So yeah, this was a chance in 2016 and again now. The Democrats have done nothing but take all of our disaster relief money and sent it overseas to Ukraine and Israel. Under NAFTA, they voted our jobs away.
Crushed unions by doing it.
Biden's crime bill locked up millions of black workers. Kamala Harris, California's top cop, broke thousands of black families, sending them to jail for nonviolent drug crimes.
Railway strike.
While laughing about smoking pot in college, they broke the railway strike. Like, yeah, I think people do have a right to be pissed at these people who are not your friends. They do not have your back. And sometimes people will lash out and they'll vote for a candidate who's minimally like, well, I have nothing to lose anyway, because there's no help coming from any of these fucking ghouls. So I'll vote for the guy that's going to throw a brick through the window of the establishment.
Right. And you hear that, and I definitely hear that from people who aren't political are like, you know what? The way he's just fucking with the establishment is good enough for me. And that's it. I'm like, well, you're broke. Like, you had 4 years of Trump. You were broke when it started. You're broke when it ended. Like, what changed? Well, I just want someone just to fucking do it, because I think people know, unless you're delusional, nothing's economically is going to change for you, really. I mean, you could argue in 2020, student loan payments stopped. You were getting those checks, like there were some economic gains that some people made. I mean, no one was going out and everything.
Child tax credit,
right,
for as milquetoast of a reform as it was, supposedly lifted child poverty by like 50%. And it was enormously popular, and they didn't renew it. It's incredible.
Mitford Romnicus fucking had a proposal to extend it and like make it permanent, and the Democratic Party was like, no, we'll have a bipartisan vote when it ends. Like, what the fuck, like what world are you living in?
Yeah, and this is a perfect example. So here we have a guy called Walrus in a Top Hat on Twitter. The GIF is a lady drinking wine, and he's like,
"Oh, that's a Betty Draper." I'm sorry, Mad Men fans out here.
Okay,
sure. Betty Draper.
And he's like, me watching him deport the Latinos and the Arab Americans after they voted for him, and yeah, people are like,
boy.
Do these repulsive shit libs ever wonder why they are so despised by both the right and the left? What a disgusting hive. And I'm so glad they lost. And,
a nice ratio, too. Holy shit. They got that 7,000 to that 1,000. Wow.
Jesus.
That is some ratio, bucko.
And this guy writes, it's because leftists have more in common with fascists than liberals.
Oh, yeah?
100 likes
like
versus
what?
7,000.
Y'all are far more outraged at the people who are talking about Trump's policies than the people who voted for them.
Oh, boy.
So it's like, your anger should be at Trump and Trump voters. And it's like, you lost an election to the dumbest man alive. And this should have been easy, and it's not. And you continually
And it's the person
you put the stick in your own wheel of your bicycle, and then you blame everyone else.
and the person attacking Latinos and Arab Americans is like, you should be focusing on Trump and his policies. Like, oh,
Really? Why? Well, they didn't do that.
right.
They copied Trump and his policies.
Yeah.
Right.
And for some reason they lost.
Yep. Aaron, if you
Yeah,
want to just skip to, okay, go ahead, Joe, and then I'll.
Oh yeah, I just wanted to add, like, I for a long time I did have the view that, like, yeah, I've moved past Bernie and AOC, and like I am disappointed in this and that thing they did, and but like, yeah, it's probably better that they're in there than someone else. But something flipped this year for sure. That put me over the edge, because there was, especially when they were like fighting to keep Biden in the race. I was like,
my God,
this is either like you guys think you're gonna get something out of him, or you just have the worst political instincts ever. Like,
I couldn't tell. I know. I couldn't tell either.
Like, AOC said something like, not one Republican has said Trump should drop out. I was like, yeah, because they like him and he's winning. So that's not when you ask your thing to drop out.
Right.
But then also when I saw her DNC speech where she was like, he's working tirelessly for a ceasefire, and then literally 10 minutes later, backstage, she was being interviewed by some like activist journalist, and she was like talking completely differently. She was talking about Gaza like I do, and I was like, "You're completely full of shit." Like,
right. We want a ceasefire. We want a ceasefire.
It's like, she'll talk about it to the people who want to hear that, and then she'll go on the DNC stage and be like, "Good, I have like a seat at the table," but then she just says what they fucking say.
So this section in the article, that, what's it called? I'm sure the title of it is from the Communist Party USA. Trump victory, a kick in the teeth of the establishment. I could quote. There was a lot to quote out of here, but I'm just gonna try to this one section here. And this kind of goes at, I think we're all gonna like this part here. So this is what I want to talk about. And I quote: "The fact is not an accident. This fact is not an accident. It is a reflection of a self-evident social reality. The gulf separating the haves and the have-nots has stretched to an unbridgeable abyss, and this is deepening the social and political polarization. It is creating an explosive mood of anger in society. Everywhere you look, in all countries, there's a burning hatred of the rich and the powerful, the bankers, Wall Street, and the establishment in general. This hatred was cleverly exploited by Donald Trump, and this has appalled the serious representatives of capital. Now, the U.S. stock market is booming. The dollar is riding high in currency markets. The U.S. economy is rolling along at about 2.5% real GDP growth. Unemployment is no higher than 4.1%, and yet reports from the election canvassers clearly show that most people do not feel any better off. Quite contrary, in fact, and this is the quote that I really liked, and I edited down a bit for time. The canvassers at Make the Road Pennsylvania told me that many people they met expressed doubt that voting would improve their lives. One canvasser said that she was frequently told of politicians, quote, "They just want my vote and then they forget about us." Manuel Guzman, a state representative whose district includes neighborhoods in Reading lined with modest row houses and populated mainly by Latino immigrants. "We've become so focused as a national party on saving democracy," he said. "I'm going to be honest with you. I've not heard one person in the city of Reading talk to me about democracy. What they're telling me is, Manny, why is gas so high? Why is my rent so high? No one is speaking to these issues."
Yep.
That's really it. Like, people want, my rent is through the roof. I can't afford groceries. My wages are not, like, no, Harris did not talk about that. We had to save this shitty democracy where billionaires, millionaires, and corporations really run both parties, run the government, run the laws, pass laws that they want, fuck us up. That's not like, people aren't, like I said, no one was, once you get a couple of liberals like, well, what about democracy? But it's like, I can't make ends meet. I work with people who are like living at home because they can't afford it. The rent is 80% of their paycheck is spent on food and groceries and rent.
I think it also goes to show, this article, the other one, even the most crude Marxist analysis is like how superior it is to like the worldview of liberals. Because think about it, they're out of touch. The only thing that they can do is blame the people for not like thinking they're entitled to them. That they're like Bertolt Brecht's poem, like if only we could like dissolve the people and like have another one. And they can't explain where Trump comes from aside from, oh, he's just this demonic figure and everything. And instead they're resurrecting like 2004 memes about like red America being dumb fuckistan. And it's like you see from this article, it's very clear like there are economic reasons for it. There are material reasons that we can rationally explain and understand about like why, people are disillusioned with the Democrats and like we're looking to Trump falsely for an alternative, but also, why the Democrats actually don't offer a real alternative either. And, from this, you can actually understand like how like this happened materially, realistically.
Right. Yes.
And the Democrats can't do that. So, which is why you see your Twitter feed, if you're unfortunately on Twitter, I will always dead name that.
I'm off.
It's the only time dead naming is correct, by the way, is Twitter. It's like, it's like we should deport anyone who, Latino who voted for Trump. I don't care if Gaza gets turned into a parking lot, all that kind of shit you see from them because they can't explain it. And they think they're entitled to it because Kamala Harris, said, I'm speaking, and they think that's like a great girl boss moment when it's like, she's interrupting people protesting a genocide. Maybe not. And I'm not saying that Gaza was the deciding issue, but it certainly was a significant one. And it was in this mix.
Right.
And
a lot of that,
materially, we can explain this.
Right.
And again, between this, WSWS, and again, even the most crude Marxist analysis can kind of understand these material conditions, these material reasons why this guy won, what he represents. They can't. And they're going to be scrambling for some new, stupid, concocted strategy for the next 2 years in the hope that Trump is going to fuck up enough that they can retake the House or the Senate. And they'll probably have some shitty candidate. I don't like to predict the future too much. I'm a historian. I like to analyze the past more. Yeah. But I could almost see it being like another 12 years before there's like a Democrat, like with, between Reagan and Bush, if you remember that.
Right. And I think, and I'm just reading the comments too from Comrade Rachel brought up, like when Harris promised some confusing small business loan program that no one cared about. Yeah. Like who the fuck was like, you know what?
Dude,
businesses don't get enough help.
That was one of my favorite. That was one of my favorite
some weird algebra number that
promises.
Was gonna like give.
Do you remember what it was? I actually committed it to memory because
oh my god, you're the one.
It's such an insane campaign promise.
Okay.
She ran on. So I think this was in the primaries, and her student loan forgiveness promise was student loan forgiveness for it's a Pell Grant. So I think it was $50,000 student loan forgiveness for anyone who opened a small business in a disadvantaged community for 3 years.
What the fuck?
Like, the threshold is so psychotic.
I have to read this.
You have to do 30 jumping jacks in 30 seconds though, every 4 minutes, and then after like what?
You have to win. You have to win a Nobel Prize in mathematics first.
I have to read this text from my friend Max because it was almost exactly that. He said, "Look, the only way to beat right-wing Nazis who want to put people in camps is by offering a 5% discount on mortgages if your last name begins with the A, Q, or Z, and you were a Pell Grant recipient who graduated in the fourth quarter of a fiscal year in one of 9 states."
And if you can show your IRS returns for the last 6 years and make sure there's no delinquent payments, if you miss one payment, you're out. But if you can prove that, and then if you're blood type A negative, like what? It's just Jesus Christ. Dude, it means test it.
The small business thing is like it's so stupid. Like every time she fucking told that story about like how her fucking nanny was a small business owner or whatever, I was like, stop talking. Oh my god, why are you saying this? Why are you saying this? Doesn't make it's like.
My personal chef actually is at a
my
big
babysitter was a fucking bodega owner. Like, shut up.
Jesus God Almighty. Yep. Oh Lord help us. And that thing too.
Go ahead, Chris. I was just going to wrap up this topic and move on.
All right, and one thing here at the end of it, the limits of American power exposed. It's a long piece. I'm not going to read it all.
It's a very good section.
It's a good section, but one thing you hear a lot. And this is from Trump supporters I talk to and I work with. It's like they have all this money to give to Ukraine and Israel. Where's our help? Why are we spending all this money on? And I'd kind of flip it and be like, they're spending more on bombs. They want to spend billions, tens and tens of billions of dollars to bomb a country, to send, like I said, weapons to Ukrainian Nazis, 2,000-pound cluster bombs, more tanks, more weapons. Meanwhile, North Carolina's needed FEMA money. They didn't get that. They, like I said, you can blame Republicans and Democrats. Both parties didn't vote for FEMA funding, but like the money is leaving the country to kill people. That's the thing. And, we lost Afghanistan. We didn't win Iraq. Those are two 20-year wars, cost us trillions of dollars. Russia is winning the Ukrainian war. American imperialism is not what it used to be. They're going to get a black eye at this. Putin's going to win it. Like, China's now a new rival. It's just, and I'm not, I don't think any of us are huge fans of China really at all. 1949 China I'm a huge fan of, but this one in 2024 I'm not. But American imperialism is waning. And it's quite obvious. So, but yeah, that's just one thing I just wanted to talk about.
It's kind of interesting too to look at some of the European reactions based to jump off of that. Like, I'm not saying like NATO is going to dissolve or anything, but some of them are seriously talking about we may need to like stand on our own feet, blah, 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 and maybe have their own defensive alliance. And yeah, and Russia, I would not classify as imperialist, but it's certainly a wannabe imperialist power. It's up and coming and everything.
Right.
And yeah, so there is definitely, this is what the ACP wants, isn't it? Multipolarity, which is just basically rival bourgeois states. I don't know what's liberatory about it. It's like whatever, but it's like
neo-Kautskyism.
Kautskyism, ultra imperialism. So there's like that element of it. It's not 20 years ago where the US was clearly the top of the heap.
Right.
There are these rivals there. I mean, the U.S. is like still the most powerful, but it's certainly not unchallenged.
Right.
Okay, so just to end off this article, and we'll move on to our last topic. It does offer a little bit of hope. Again, check in on your trans friends, especially. This is a pretty grim time. I will say, and like I said earlier, like. Throughout history, it is full of examples of people fighting back with far less than what we have now, and winning. Don't forget.
Do join. Like I said, I'd recommend joining a Tuesday night Marxist reading group. I mean, that's a good way. Not only do you learn Lenin after you have a social, and it's nice to actually. And I'm being serious on this too. Like, go to a social. You do need to talk to like-minded people.
Yes,
you will. You'll get through. Like, honestly, humans are social creatures. We do need to talk to each other. Do not be isolated. Isolating yourself is the worst thing you can do. And I'm being dead serious.
Yeah.
We do a lot of laughing comedy. We have a gallows humor, but like, I need my friends. I need my comrade. If I was alone, not doing shit, I wouldn't be taking this as well. But
I've had people. I've had people tell me the podcasts themselves that made them feel like, oh my god, like I'm not crazy. People. There are people frustrated with a lot of different elements of the left who are just constantly dropping the ball, just like us.
Yes.
I mean, I spend a lot of time, unfortunately, by myself, and there's a tendency like to doom scroll on the news updates. Twitter, Facebook, and I don't care how long you've been on the far left or how well read you are, it does get to you. And it's like, being able to converse with like-minded friends and comrades, even if it's on Zoom, although I would prefer in person, but it's helpful. It says like, listen, you're not alone. There are people out there who give a shit about you and have the same worldview as you. And that's very good. That's like why we have organizations, to, in the best sense, to be comrades to each other and everything.
Yeah.
And to, it's the old saying goes like an injury to one, it's an injury to all. And, it's very, just that level, because, you do need to get through the day, and it's okay to take time out to relax and everything. But don't think you are alone, and try not to be alone, because there are people out there, if they've never met you, they actually give a shit about you. Let's put it like that.
Yeah.
I'll end it with this piece here. The American workers who place their confidence in Trump will find themselves sorely disappointed. There's no evidence he will deliver on any of his promises. In 1940, when the German army entered Paris, there was an interesting conversation between a German officer and a French officer. The German was naturally puffed up with arrogance, but the French officer said simply, "The wheel of history has turned, and it will turn again." And it did. The wheel of history is turning in the USA, and it will turn again. Once the masses have fully explored the potential of Trumpism and realized its limitations, they will turn in a different direction. The way will be prepared for a massive swing of the pendulum to the left. A new and turbulent chapter in American history is about to be written.
I do believe that.
And
Yes.
now the task falls on
Yeah.
us. And that is the answer to the question of what is to be done now. The time to organize was when Bernie dropped out, but the second best time is now, is to get involved, start talking to your neighbors, your friends, your family, your coworkers. Start just being like, I don't know, if you feel safe to be like, yeah, I'm a communist, I'm a Marxist, and then start, and you might people might surprise you. They're like, yeah, you know what, I'm kind of interested in this. I started posting on Facebook some political stuff again, and one guy was like, yeah, you know what, like, I'm really fucking sick and tired of the left just spinning its wheels and getting nothing done, and we can't have another Occupy Wall Street again because that went nowhere. And I'm like, buddy, have I got a book for you? Called, I need to write I need to respond to him tonight, but like, yeah, I was like, man, I have to get you to read What Is to Be Done, because everything you're saying is exactly what Lenin is responding to. Start reading theory, start organizing, start talking to each other, and ultimately support each other. If nothing else, just listen. Don't gloat. Don't be like, "Hi, I fucking told you so," or "What did you expect was going to happen? What did you think was going to?" You know, try to. It is tempting and hard to resist because you
can say that about Kamala Harris and Democratic bigwigs.
As Trotsky said, theory is the superiority.
Trotsky once said that theory is the superiority of foresight over astonishment.
Yeah, that's what theory is, and that's what gave us the foresight to see this coming. And now the task is on us and everyone listening, is to organize a mass base so that when this happens again, there will be an answer. And that's not, Pell Grants. And I don't know what they what would they have done about rent increases, like subsidizing BlackRock? I don't know. Probably.
Right.
The answer
rent control.
Also,
they could do rent control. I mean, that's something. I mean, socialist alternative in Seattle.
Heck no. That's communism. We have to.
I'll say right now, like, the answer is not, because I've seen this one. It's not to run some pseudo left primary in the Democratic Party, because that's not our arena. It's not our struggle. And it's not to try and have some new bourgeois or petty bourgeois third party, because frankly, that's not a solution either. The electoral arena it's meant to serve their interests, their class. And if we're going to build anything, let's build it with our own banner and program, the banner of socialism and communism. You know what? These reactionaries right now, they're pretty open about what they want to do and what they stand for. And it's pretty horrible.
Fuentes,
you know what?
Your body, my choice. That's what he was saying.
I want to have our program, what we stand for. I think the Communist Manifesto is correct when it says we disdain to conceal our views and aims. Let's present that communist alternative. Let's make a real red states as opposed to this fucking co-option.
Yeah.
And that does mean, working with oppressed people, working with working people in the streets, in the workplaces, because that's where our real strength is. It's not going to be in the electoral arena. It's going to be, building real movements for liberation.
Right.
And because the answer, what we have to do is the same as what we had to do 4 years ago or 8 years ago or 12 years ago. It is to build that movement, to build that kind of party. Because you know what? I think having a communist style party, it's not a guaranteed win, but without one, it's a guaranteed loss all the time.
Boom.
Bingo.
Nice.
Yeah. And also, I'm just kind of reading the chat too and everything. One thing, about what organizations some people brought up, and I think Common Rachel's like, if DSA is the only thing in town, I know some groups do it. I know we're not fans of DSA, but thing I know, but I would just say this. If you want to form a Marxist reading group in that DSA, I think that's fine. Teach them some Marxism there. They could use it, but one thing we do, like I said, every Tuesday, and a couple people too. One thing we can offer you, the Left Opposition Podcast, Tuesday nights, 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. We've opened up to the reading groups. We're reading Lenin right now. What Is to Be Done? How ironic! We didn't time it that way, but join us. Really, it's fine. It's just a reading group. It's fine if you want to just turn your camera off and you're shy. That's okay. But just like I said, do the reading, learn with some stuff. Learning and education gave me hope. That's what really is going to do. We don't read this for fun. It's not just purely epidemic. We want to apply the lessons we learned into the real world. And it feels good to be around it. Then after we have a social, that's when we talk about, hey man, how you doing? Holy shit. I got this fucking, this coworker who says that, we do that. And we have some fun. Maybe we're talking about a movie. It's okay. Get out, because I know like young people right now, you like, this is the first generation that's like, I think completely raised on social media. Like we're a little bit older than a lot of the younger people, but we went out and did stuff. You just have social media and texting.
We're middle-aged, man.
I know it's happening. So like we understand young people don't feel a lot of hope. Hopefully we can give that to you. But please come out, join us. It's fine. Tuesday nights. We do it. We'd love to have you.
On that note too, in terms of like joining a Marxist org, I think it's fair to say that most Marxist organizations do have their problems. I have disagreements. You're never going to find a perfect organization.
Correct.
And but if nothing else, I'm a former member of the IMT. What are they called now? The RCI, Revolutionary Communist.
Yeah, the RCI International.
I used to be with them, and if nothing else, the theory and the education that they emphasized with their members was invaluable. And I can't say enough good things about the comrades in that organization who taught me everything that I know now. And learning about the Russian Revolution, learning these were like illiterate peasants who got radicalized and organized, and it took years. It took like 20 years to build that Bolshevik party to lead the working class. For when that revolution became inevitable under capitalism, there was someone there to lead them. And everyone listening to this pod, that is going to be your task.
Yeah. I was thinking about this the other day because it was like, this shit worked. Like it's worked actually many, many times. And like it hasn't always lasted for various reasons. But like it's the Gramsci quote, the new world is struggling to be born. I mean, it's not an easy or like quick process, nor was like the formation of capitalism. Like how long did that take? 200-300 years,
That's right. To overthrow feudalism, it took centuries. Yeah, that's right.
So it's very to look at like the mid part of the 20th century and not all of those countries like stayed in the formation they were then and continued to build communism. It's like, well, okay, yeah, I mean, why would it be easy?
Yeah. I mean, like I would say like study even Latin America and the history of Latin America.
Permanent Revolution in Latin America, one of the best books, I will say. I love it.
And the anti-imperialist struggles in Latin America. Again, people who have less than what we have now fought back and they've won, they've lost, but like the struggles are real and the struggles are incredibly inspirational.
Yeah, I mean, during World War II, most of Europe was under the Nazi jackboot, but you had like Tito, you had the French resistance, the Greek partisans, the Italian partisans,
Nicholas Ceausescu,
and even Nicholas Ceausescu, in his better days.
So,
and you had like in China, you had them fighting against the Japanese and everything. And a lot of these movements, some of them didn't win, but a few did. And I think that's I have a lot of problems with Tito. Him killing Nazis isn't one of them.
No.
And I think that's pretty inspirational because
under Shen Dushu and Mao, they took the Communist Party in China from 200 members to one of the largest, technically, in name only.
Right.
But like that was the second greatest event in human history after the Russian Revolution. Was the Chinese Revolution.
And you know what? Vietnam is also nominally communist, but they withstood the Japanese, the French, and the USA.
And the US. Yes.
And they won.
That's pretty bad.
They fucking won.
Pretty impressive.
They won with AKs and sandals. And like who else can claim that, right? Joe, your Gramsci quote, I believe the second half of that quote is, "A new world is struggling to be born. Now is the age of monsters."
It's
sure seems
now
like
a bunch of morbid symptoms appear. That's like Zizek changed it to the monsters.
Oh fuck. Okay, whatever. But
I've read enough Gramsci that I know that.
But speaking of monsters, there was one victory that the communism can claim.
Victory.
is the ACP, our friends over at the American Communist Party that we love to dunk on.
Oh God, we need to lighten the here, folks. Now, when you come to a reading group, you're going to get a little news from our quote unquote friends there. So
I mean,
yes,
You also get all our Paul Pot jokes. So
this
yes,
party,
all the stress
so
rights in the party are going to be loving this. Holy shit!
this
God
party
help us.
of morons and incels is part of the reason we named our podcast The Left Opposition, is because someone has to answer to these guys.
Yes,
not answer to, but like, you know what I mean?
yeah,
right.
respond to them.
Yes.
And so the American Communist Party in Vermont, they elected member Chris Helali as county high bailiff. So
I remember
congratulations.
that name from somewhere in Boston.
Communists are finally in government somewhere.
All right, now that must have been some great organizing.
He got it is part of a write-in campaign. It looks like he got 21% of the vote.
No. He got
success.
21 votes.
No mention of communism, socialism, or the ACP in his letter to the paper that formed the basis of his campaign. So he said, my name is Chris Helali. I live in Vershire on a farm with my wife, children, and extended family. Okay, so he's living the trad life.
Oh boy.
I'm running as a write-in campaign for Orange County High Bailiff and asking Orange County voters to consider writing in my name for High Bailiff this election. While High Bailiffs rarely exercise their duties, so it's not a real job. Given the state of Orange County Sheriff's Department,
like Kaz.
Yeah, exactly. It is important to have someone in the office with the skills, knowledge, and leadership credentials necessary to take on the position in the event the sheriff is unable to perform his duties. So in the event that the sheriff gets arrested, this guy's job is to serve him the papers, and that's it.
Yep.
It's also like, assuming this, like, you're a communist, why would you want to run for this office? It's like running for district attorney or police chief or something. It's not a position like when we tend to like have people run. It makes sense to like do like agitational campaigns for like some congressional office or even the executive. For the most part, you're certainly not going to get into the executive, but at least with the other ones, you could get there and use the rostrum to do propaganda. This, you're just like a really poor version of a cop.
Right, and I just want to point out
it gets worse and dumber. Let me finish this article.
Okay, yeah, go right ahead.
So a little bit about this guy. He's a social studies teacher at Hanover High School. He teaches U.S. history and American government. That must be an amazing course.
He's probably using a Patriot's Guide to American history.
My background includes serving our nation as a U.S. Army officer.
Serving our nation. That's very communist.
I'm currently completing a graduate degree in law at Cornell Law School. So again, like a lot of these law weirdos are attracted to the ACP. I studied numerous institutions, including Dartmouth. When thinking about it, this is fantastic. When thinking about a slogan for my campaign, I could not help but harken back to classical antiquity. No phrase captures the campaign in the positions like the Latin phrase "quis custodiet ipsos custodos" by the Roman poet Juvenal. It can be loosely translated as "who will watch the watchers." Right. Nothing appeals to the working class like fucking Latin. That was a joke in fucking West Wing. They bragged that the president Bartlett could speak Latin, and they didn't understand. Oh fuck! They're like in the show.
Unless you're studying Roman history, who cares?
Oh my God. This question should always be at the forefront of our minds in our beloved republic. The idea of checks, balances, and oversight are critical for our democracy. I hope in this November you consider writing me in as high bailiff to your ballots. And he won with 21 votes. Good for him. All right, so a communist is now in the government. What is a high bailiff? They're elected each of Vermont's 14 counties. The duties of a high bailiff are to serve writs, which is the sheriff is incapable of serving, such as the writ of arrest of the sheriff, and to temporarily succeed to the office of the sheriff in the event of the sheriff's incarceration.
He's a VP cop, right?
Yeah, basically. Yeah, a vice president cop.
Can I just point out, do you know what the population of this town is, by the way?
What?
672 people.
Awesome.
600. There's more people down the street from me than in the entire town. I mean, the Marxism is tied to like the urban population. This is the most remotely small town in the world.
Right.
This is nothing.
Also,
this is literally nothing.
The fact that
I thought I was living in a small town like last year. There were like barely 2,000 people there. This is
right. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
wow.
Just a quick side note, it's still weird to me that a sheriff still exists. I think legally you should wear a cowboy hat.
Well, that'd be the best thing in the world. Yep. Yeah.
So Chris, tell us a little bit more about this guy. I understand you have some interesting
now this is
history on this fellow.
Actually, Doug, I remember the story now but Doug, how did you remember the story? Because I remember this. This is a Boston.
So,
You lived in Boston.
I did not actually remember this at the time, and I don't think I knew about it. So I actually found out about it on Twitter, and I looked it up like in the last few days. And I actually,
Okay.
so he originally he comes from an Iranian immigrant or Iranian and Greek family, I think.
That sounds about right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he lived
Yep.
in Boston at one point. He was involved in the IWW. He was involved in embezzlement of their funds. He
Yeah.
had a
Well,
partner
how
he
ironic.
basically knocked up and didn't want to pay child support for, and I think there was some domestic abuse involved. And the partner did an interview with Socialism for All, which is an ML YouTube channel. And some of the Stalin stuff aside, that's actually a fairly decent channel, I might add. So check them out. And I actually just looked on Facebook. I typed in his name and I'm like, oh, there's the local Boston IWW. They had like a statement against him.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he went to Rojava, which is like the Kurdish area in Syria, supposedly.
Yep.
And I think there's like a lot of sketchy stuff around because I think he was also trying to get away from his partner. And he was in a split off of the Communist Party called the Party of Communists, which is kind of like these more hardcore ML Stalinist types.
2014 group, 2016 grouping.
Yeah, so
2014,
around
yeah,
that
20,
time,
yeah.
you know,
Yep.
and all that, the Stalinist shit aside, they left for a good reason, which is, the CP's like love of the Democratic Party.
Right.
And this guy, he's a real scumbag, domestic abuse, like not really good to women, embezzling funds. And honestly, the fact that he's still touting like his military credentials, there's something's kind of sketchy in my eyes about that. And
Yep.
now he's actually, I think he's the international secretary of the ACP as well, because they've had him in like Russia, I think Nicaragua, somewhere in like Latin America. He's been kind of making the rounds a bit. And he's only about like I think he's close to 40.
Probably.
But yeah, he's kind of basically their kind of clientele, like this weird law student who hates women and is reactionary, and the fact that he wants to be involved in like freaking high bailiff. I don't know. Does he want to be sheriff of Nottingham or something?
No, I think honestly,
they probably have like a take that the sheriff of Nottingham was the good guy, but that's another story.
Honestly, I think just to say that they got someone elected.
Fair enough.
And they went for some bullshit position that no one cares about.
Right. 21 votes inside of a town of 621 people. And ACP thinks like they just won like the Supreme Soviet just elected him to like head up.
There are very small socialist groups in the country, and they sometimes have like a school board member elected or some local city councilor. And I'm not saying that's necessarily a bad thing, but sometimes they tout it. It's like, okay, whatever, but it's like it doesn't really mean anything.
I wouldn't give an interview and be front page
now
news,
I would take like those other groups that do that more seriously because they're not filled with Nazbol domestic abusers.
Right. So if you go on the Boston IWW's page, Doug covered most of it, but they put this out. This statement was put out March 23rd, 2019. I just want to cover this one part here because it's about Vermont. Someone said this, as I understand, Christopher has been living in the country since 2017 and has established residency in Versailles, Vermont. Additionally, since 2017, he has been completing coursework for a master's degree at Dartmouth College. During this time, he sent us emails that led me to believe he is still serving in the YPG and/or otherwise overseas, and he was not in the U.S. per previous correspondence, that he had no desire to live in the United States. To this point, Christopher has continued to state he's living in Greece to me and the IWW leadership, despite the evidence he is residing in Vermont. This guy is a liar. If anything, like this, I hate to break it to you, this guy's a scumbag at all, too. Like, just left his kid, stole money from the IW. Like, this guy's a thief. This guy is a thief, and the ACP is like, things good. He stole money, so no, and he sounds like a shithead. So, way to go, ACP.
I mean, honestly, we shouldn't make fun of this, but with the ACP, they're going to have some scandal within a very near future that's going to split them apart.
Yeah.
Just like with Caleb and everything, because this is the type of assholes they attract.
Right.
I don't know if it's going to be like if Haas has some kind of like diaper fetish or something or whatever, but they're going to have some weird scandal that's going to break them apart.
Honestly, I think Haas is going to remain pure and unsullied, and he is not gonna be allowed near women. He's
Yeah,
not gonna
because he
he's not
can't,
gonna
doesn't
allow
know how
him.
many holes they have
He-
below the waist.
Dark. All right.
Oh my god.
God.
But like, fuck, I can't follow
Sorry.
that.
Municipal communism, but with ridiculous characteristics. The chat's just doing great today. That's us.
So
You guys
I think
kill me.
they're gonna do like this weird Mike Pence thing where Mike Pence refused to be in a room alone with any women that wasn't his wife. So it's I think that's what they're gonna go with. They're gonna go with they're probably gonna be part of that is weird like.
Can we take bets until they praise Strasser? You know,
no,
for all of you who
like-
don't know who Strasser is, but he is the left wing of the Nazi Party, who
They're gonna-
I identically got killed by Hitler anyway. But
I think the direction of the ACP is they're going to turn into like a semen retention cult.
the precious bodily fluids.
Yes,
That's what they're going to work on.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Aaron, that quote, my God, I forgot. Yeah, so some people chimed in about him.
Yeah, some people in the comments. This guy was like, Marxism aside, Helali is a bad dude. I went to college with him, and he literally opened up a can of tear gas on his roommate. This got him in trouble with his fraternity, and he literally responded by ratting out all of his brothers to the university for drinking and drug use, naming names. He is only looking out for himself, and he is dangerous and unstable. I am fearful for my life by writing this because I honestly believe he could be dangerous. Apparently, he's gone off the deep end, abandoned children, refusal to pay child support, spousal abuse, embarrassing himself in an interview with Chomsky.
Oh, wow.
And showing he actually knows very little about communism, stealing from other communists, etc.
He'll be a great cop. He'll be a great cop in Vermont. I'll be honest.
Yeah,
So far,
yeah,
he's honestly, he'll probably get reelected right now. So
Anyway,
there he is.
So
wow.
heartfelt congratulations to the ACP for getting
a cop elected, electing a cop, a VP Walmart cop. Way to go! Chat.
Nice to know that someone out there is still working on, trying to do the real work and organizing the working class.
Oh,
sorry, I can't even say that with a straight face.
There's no working class with 360 people. I think they're probably farmers, really. You know, good God. There we go.
So that's about all I had to say.
All right. I think we did good. I think we did a good episode. Yeah, this is a long episode. Thank you all in the chat for sticking
this feels
around.
like this feels like a grim week, despite being correct. And I didn't want either of these parties to win, and I'm still upset that Trump won.
I know.
It's insane.
Right. It's kind of like you didn't have a stroke, but here comes a heart attack. That's all it is. Like, well, at least I'm not having a stroke. But I mean, folks, we knew this was going to be bad. No matter what, the genocide, as I always say, the genocide was going to continue either way. And no Trump, all the Trump people got nothing to say when you say that too. Like, oh, we're going to stop all the funding of all the wars. And it's like, we're going to stop funding Israel's genocide. Is that good? Well, that's existing money. And I'm like, okay, I'm not, this is a serious conversation. No, it was earmarked before. I'm like, okay.
My question now.
Suddenly, Trump supporters are like political wonks.
This was in the fiscal budget for 2040 23. So technically, this isn't new money.
So my challenge now to liberals then is: will you join the communists in the streets against Donald Trump's genocide against Palestinians?
Let's see.
Let's see where you are, you fucking cowards.
Yeah,
you could do worse.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So I just want to say, please, if you want to follow us, you can follow us on Facebook, the Left Opposition Podcast. We're also on Blue Sky, who someone did ask. I will make it a point to update it more. Because Blue Sky is becoming a thing. But we're on Threads, Instagram. Please follow us, give us a like and a share. Also, if you download the episode on Spotify or MySpace, I don't know what it is, but please give us a 5-star review. Steal people's phones. Give all of us 5-star reviews.
And also, in your top 8.
There you go. Put us. I hope all the millennials listening appreciate it. To anyone under 40,
look us up on
ask your
Friendster.
parents. Friendster, AOL profiles, whatever it takes.
All the millennials' bones just turned to dust.
It's not Matt Damon seen in Saving Private Ryan. But
What
yeah,
is it? No
so
one uses AOL chat anymore?
yes, please do follow us there. We also have a Patreon page. If you do want to support us, we have subscriptions at $5 a month at the lowest. If you want to give us $12,000 a month, that's perfectly fine as well. Whatever you want
Not
to
gonna stop
give.
you.
With
Yeah,
Patreon,
we're not gonna tell you no.
It's
with,
just
pa-
from our own labor, so it's not
with
breaking our socialist principles.
with
That's
Patreon, you
right.
can with Patreon you can support us without giving Jeff Bezos any money.
That's a great way. Think of it that way, folks, too. Marx is archaeologist. That's on the stream. If you listen on the podcast,
Archaeologist.
whatever,
You say it wrong
whatever.
every time. A little side project we're working on too is we're gonna be kicking around is turning our reading groups into podcast episodes.
Oh shit,
like
folks, stay seated. Yep.
stay tuned. Maybe something, maybe a little something, little something for our Patreon supporters, and like a 1 hour episode explaining all the main points and what is to be done and why they're relevant. Something like that, and then we move on to another text. I really am a huge fan of not left-wing communism, socialism, utopian, and scientific.
Ooh, I like that one a lot
Such
too.
a banger.
Ooh, it's good.
Even though left-wing communism gets abused by all the opportunists, it's a great text.
Oh
All
my
right.
God.
Also, Doug has a book. And Joe, Doug, you want to plug your book a little bit?
Yeah, it's like the Karl Kautsky and the New Reformism, the Renegade's Revenge. It's hopefully will be out in paperback in the next year or so, but you can obviously have your library order it. So it's dealing with Kautsky and a lot of these debates in recent years about him. And I will hopefully have a forthcoming book actually at the end of next year or 2026. And this one is definitely a bit more trotty in sense I'm
Hey.
going after like all these neo-Stalinist like conspiracies on like the Moscow trials.
Nice.
Right.
So if you don't like Grover Furr and want to know why he's full of it, I did that for people.
We got a video of you confronting him too, which we got to
Yes,
put up
that's,
sometime.
Yeah, I stream on most Sundays at like 2 to 4 usually on Twitch at Radicalize Me. I also have a YouTube channel at Radicalize Me where I talk about pop culture and how it relates to socialism and how socialism relates to pop culture.
I like.
And yeah,
Is
sometimes you find
Hogwarts
songs on there
socialist?
too. What's that?
Is Hogwarts socialist?
Yeah.